Hi, everybody. This is Chad Shoemaker, and you are tuned in to another fine episode of the About 30 Minutes podcast. And we have a wonderful guest with us today, a person I'm going to admire already because she's in the wonderful, wacky field of education. We have Preston Cornell. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I don't think I've ever been this happy. So
Thanks
it's
for
good to see you
having me.
today. Yeah, it's absolutely. We're glad to have you. You are a teacher
Yes.
of how many years?
This will be my 8th year.
8th year at
Yeah.
New Philadelphia.
High School,
Okay.
yep.
All right. High school.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you teach?
I teach biology and environmental science.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Because I was, as we were discussing before we got on, I was a science teacher as well. I did middle school those fun years.
Yes.
So is high school all you've ever done?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
Is that
love
all
it,
you
though.
ever want to do?
Yes. I do not want to get down to the middle school.
Oh my gosh.
You guys are amazing.
Now, so just on a side note here, have you ever done any substituting for other grades? Did you have to?
No.
You got lucky and got
I
right
did
in?
not have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I think
right.
I did do some shadowing,
Mhm.
at the middle school level. My license is 7 to 12.
Yeah.
But I quickly figured out it wasn't quite my place.
See, I did. I was in. I was the last class to graduate that we were certified 1 through 8.
Oh, okay.
So, and I got in on a long-term sub deal, which turned out fine. That was at the middle school level, but the person that I was covering for was expecting, and she hadn't quite got there yet. So they said, well, we're just going to bump you around a couple of different schools, So in that time, in about a month and a half, I subbed mostly middle school. I did kindergarten one day,
Oh, wow.
never again.
Right.
Those people, the people who teach kindergarten just need a shrine open
Yes,
to them because I
they do.
no
Yes.
way. I did a lot of elementary school, and that wasn't too bad. But I did do some high school also, and that was doable. I
Yeah.
didn't, it was kind of fun. You can make a little bit more sophisticated jokes with them, I think.
Yeah.
So, and humor is definitely a big part of that business.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I often would say I would do 6 shows a day.
Right. Right. Keep it going.
Yeah.
One after the other.
But that's not the reason we're here to talk to you today about teaching, although a very important thing.
Yes.
We're here to kind of talk about your place in Tuscarawas County. Now, you were raised here, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Born and raised. Yeah.
All right.
My parents were born and raised here too. So
Mine
yeah.
too.
Yep.
So,
Just part of that tradition.
now, when you were in high school, when you were attending college, did you think you were going to come back here? Did you have a plan?
Not really.
Okay.
I remember feeling really ready to get out, as I think most of my high schoolers would say they do too.
Mhm.
And I never said, I'm never coming back, but I definitely had that kind of independent attitude of I
Sure.
want to get out and see things and do things. But here I am, and
Yeah.
I love it,
Yeah.
and wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Now, your husband, you have a husband?
Yes,
And
yep, and
how many?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah.
3 kids. I knew there were at least 2.
Yes.
So husband and 3 kids. Now, is your husband local?
Yes,
Is he from here?
he
Rich?
is too,
Really?
yeah.
He was too?
Yep, we were in the same kindergarten class. We grew up
Okay.
down the street from each other,
No
and
kidding.
just were friends for a really long time, and then turned
Yeah.
into what it is now.
Well, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have some pretty interesting projects that have highlighted both the past and the present for you. And one of the ones that I read about when we were getting this particular episode set up was a clean water project. Is that right?
Yeah, back in high school, I
Mhm.
came across an organization called Charity Water,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a really amazing nonprofit, all about transparency, really, and
Mhm.
tracking where does this dollar go and seeing the result. And I thought it was really unique,
Mhm.
and I had never really thought about not having clean water, of course. Growing up in New Philly, we do not have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
So it just really struck me, and I started just trying to fundraise for them,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up through a 5K and walk, and just getting sponsors and
Mhm.
everything, being able to raise over $40,000 and do a couple clean water projects in Ethiopia and Rwanda. And you can still, to this day, get on and see if water is flowing in those projects or not. So
Now, did you get to go to those places?
I have not.
Okay,
That's
all
one
right.
of my
You just helped to make it
lifelong
happen.
goals. Yeah, I've just tried
Okay.
to help raise the money. And as always, the people in this community just step up and support things. You know, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. It was just a high school girl. Like, I think this is important. I think we should do something. And people just rallied behind me. And
Now, was this part of, was this something, I guess I want to say, did this start as a required project for a club, like either 4-H or did they still have Key Club?
Yeah,
when
they
you were in
do still
school?
have Key Club.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
but no, this was just.
This was something
I
on
just
your
came
own?
across it and thought I should do something.
Wow. Okay. And I can totally get behind that. You know, it is unfortunate that in my experience in the classroom, I actually had a handful of kids over the 20 years that I taught that were living in places, I mean, right here in our county,
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't have water.
Right.
That they were living in maybe a trailer that had been abandoned or
Sure.
something like that. And it's absolutely heartbreaking
Right.
to see something like that.
Right.
And to get something up and running for somebody, I mean, that's in our own neck of the woods, but to do
Right.
something like this for somebody on the other side of the world,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really something. What drives you to do things like this? I mean, it's very clear that if you're teaching, you're a giving person to begin with. I mean, that's the nature of the beast.
Sure.
And so now, and then, you know, you've got that water project that's in your past. What drives you to do things like this? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just get these ideas in my head and I don't let them go, which is kind of what happened with this next project too. It was just something that came to me and I thought I should really try to make this happen.
So please tell us about that.
Right. So right now, and kind of why I'm here, I guess, is that back in the winter, I was just driving home. We live right by Tuscora Park, and I was just driving home one day, and I looked over, and I was like, "What an amazing park we have! I love this little playground. It's got the fence around it, so the kids can run around. I don't have to stress. You know, I just love going to the park. I miss going to the park because this is January, and we're
Yes.
stuck inside.
Right,
And so
right,
I'm
right,
like,
right.
Wow, I love the park, and I miss it." And about 5 years ago, my mom passed away from cancer at the age of like 57. And she worked at ODOT for about 34 years as a civil engineer. Could have retired, but kept working to try to give me and my sisters, I guess, you know, an upper hand, try to help us with schooling, buying homes, you know, anything to just start us off on a good path. So she worked all this extra time when she could have retired but didn't. So ends up passing away, not getting to enjoy that retirement. And just kind of leaves me and my sisters and dad feeling like we should try to pay it forward and do
Sure.
something good because that's why she worked all those years, was to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm driving by the park and I'm like, what a great park. We should try to do something at the park in honor of my mom. My dad had purchased the mini Ferris wheel that was just added to the park this summer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's not quite finished, but it's there and can ride. Kids can ride it now. So he purchased that, and I was thinking, man, a playground would be even more cool than this little Ferris wheel. But I wasn't going to say that to my dad because I wasn't going to suggest spending a bunch of money on something.
Sure.
But the next day he came over and he said, you know, I'm just having these crazy thoughts. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think it would be amazing if we could do a playground in honor of your mom. And it was just one of those moments where you get chills down your spine.
Yeah. Who put that idea there, you know?
Right.
And you got both of you.
Right.
That's
Within
something.
24 hours.
Right.
In the dead
Right.
of winter. Why are we even thinking about that? So yeah, it was just another thing that I thought, okay, this is a sign. If I thought that, he's saying that, I just need to try to make this happen.
Yes.
So that's what I've been doing for the last 8 months, is trying to make it happen.
And you know, it's remarkable how many, within this county, within my lifetime, how many parks I've seen evolve. You know, I grew up in the late 70s, early to mid 80s in Dover. And when I was a kid, I mean, absolutely going to Tuscora Park was an absolute
Right.
We did it every 4th of July. We had family reunions there and everything.
Yep.
And the playground was big. And of course, Ferris wheel, merry-go-round, and all
Right.
that good stuff. But I go there now, like I was there for the 4th of July. And it's just, it blows my mind how much has changed.
Yeah.
And how much stuff has been added.
Yeah.
I think about too, one of the parks that I grew up with, I had at the north end of Dover was the baseball fields.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, a couple of nights back, did a walk through there, and it just, I'm like, wow, this is, if we would have had this then,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
and plus it was stuff with safety equipment and things
Yeah,
like, you know, we
yeah.
landed on our heads back
Yeah.
then, and we're like, oh, you know, so be
It's
it.
fine.
But yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Now, what I thought was really interesting is, and I didn't see much description on this, you are looking to have this playground be inclusive.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What
Yeah.
in what sense?
So I visited a park up in Canton, Dogwood Park, which is
Okay.
kind of what the playground is kind of modeled after, and it's really amazing.
Mhm.
Everyone should stop by with their kids up there until we get ours, hopefully. But
Okay.
it's all inclusive, meaning the surfacing is all flat. You know, you're not dealing with mulch, which is hard for people to get across if they're in a walker or a wheelchair.
True.
So that's kind of like, you know, your foundation. It's a
Mhm.
level surface, so anyone can get across it. But then beyond that, a bunch of play equipment. And I saw someone talking about it today. You know, it's inclusive, so that doesn't mean that it's just for kids who are handicapped.
Right.
You know, it's not just a handicap swing that only a kid in a wheelchair can
Mhm.
use. It's something that everybody can use.
Yeah.
So there's like a really neat slide that's a part of the design that my typical 2-year-old would have just as much fun as someone who would be using it who would need a wheelchair
Mhm.
assistance getting up. Different things like a orbit, like we used to have the merry-go-round at the park that you just spin around on.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
Had to get rid of it because people were falling off.
Oh, blah, 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 blah.
But-
that was half the fun, was, you know,
Right,
letting
right.
go and just letting physics do its thing.
Right.
So-
But this one, you know, it's level with the ground. Somebody
Yes.
can wheel right onto it, enjoy it as much as any other kid could.
That's cool.
There's a spot that's called a serenity spot, so kids with autism could go kind of have a place where they can express like stimming behaviors and kind of
Mhm.
get away if, you know, they're overwhelmed. A signing board, sign language. It really tries to think of all
just
ages,
about
all
everything.
abilities, and
Yeah.
make sure that there's something there that represents and is for everyone.
And see, and that's another one of those things that has evolved. You know, I can remember, and this is crazy, but I can remember, you know, the schools that I went to, the elementary schools and all that kind of stuff, becoming accessible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having grown up in, like I said, the 70s and 80s, and we had school buildings that simply, they just were never
Right.
designed with that in mind.
Right.
And I can remember getting stair lifts and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know, and then as a teacher, when I came along, the definition of inclusive has changed
Mm-hmm.
so dramatically. I think a lot of us older folks, we tend to think of it as wheelchair accessible, handicap, that kind of thing.
Right.
But there's so many other things
So many other things.
that
right.
you know that are in there. Kids with hearing difficulties and,
Right.
like you said, autism and
Right.
Asperger's and all these different things. That is part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you see a lot of the inclusiveness coming into play in your classroom?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, just the idea of you're teaching science
Yeah.
at a high school level. Now, are yours electives or are they considered? It's like are
One
there
of mine is required.
environmental science is a requirement.
No, biology, and then
biology is.
Environmental is more of an elective.
More of
yeah.
an elective, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, you know, since we're talking inclusiveness, how does that come into play in a classroom? There's a lot of, you know, I'm sure there are listeners out there that we've got, viewers, listeners, that haven't been in a classroom in
Right.
years.
Right. I
you
think,
know.
you know, we have a lot of discussions about how do we make this lesson, how do we make this activity something that everybody can enjoy? How do you make sure that you have different lessons that reach all of your different types of kids and learners. Just there's a really big focus, I think, right now on making sure that everyone is included and accessed.
Absolutely.
And I see that going back to the park too. They just added the new train, which is accessible.
Okay.
The Ferris wheel's now accessible.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I didn't know. Again, this is, I haven't been on rides for so long.
Right.
I don't
right.
know. Not since my nephews were little boys,
Sure.
but okay.
Lacey, who has the Adaptive Movement Center, she put in a
Lacey
communication board. Yep.
She was one of our guests.
Amazing.
I love her to pieces. She's out of her mind,
Yes.
though.
Yep.
Lacey, I'm sorry. It's the truth. And everybody who knows you would say the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
But, it seems like everyone is starting to get on board with thinking about, okay,
Sure.
Can everybody enjoy this?
Right.
Whether you're talking about a lesson in school or the park,
I think people who are not exposed to that kind of thing get a little bit concerned that that things will turn around and become all about
right.
and leave out
right.
the kids who are
Right.
quote unquote typical kids.
Right. Not that at all.
No, it's not that. It's not that
No.
way at all.
No, it's just making sure you've thought about if it's going to reach your other kids too.
I think if people, some folks who question this type of thing would have to spend, quite a bit of time with somebody who has a need.
Yeah.
Whether that is, when I was still in the classroom, we were inclusion and I taught regular 7th and 8th grade science, but we had kids in there that were kids that were in wheelchairs. I definitely had some kids who were very autistic.
Yeah.
Almost to the point of being nonverbal.
Right.
And when you are presented with something like that as a teacher or a designer of a park or something like that, and you realize, okay, this is another person. They have to be accommodated.
Right.
How can you do that? That can be a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
That can really be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
boy. Now, what is the projected time, date, that kind of thing on this?
So I'm applying for a few local grants, and then there's a couple more that I'll apply for in 2025, just kind of based on what the park has already asked for from people and whatnot. So I'm anticipating at least through 2025 to still be fundraising and then hopefully break ground on the project in 2026. The playground itself, estimated cost is about $500,000, including, the surfacing the gate, that's all of it. And then...
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Would this go in a separate area? Would this replace the current?
This is replacing a current one, and if you're familiar with the park, it's the one right behind the putt-putt and by the two pavilions
okay.
that are, often used for reunions and stuff. Towards the pond.
Okay.
That one back there.
See, I was thinking of the one near the youth center.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I was like, okay, because that one...
Right, that's in really good shape.
Yeah, I was going to say, that one's still pretty good.
Yeah, but the one back there is kind of falling apart anyway. There's a couple of ladders that are missing pieces and stuff. So it's about time for an update anyway, so it seemed like the logical spot. So the playground would be $500,000. I also am hoping to get enough funds to redo the pavilions right there, too. And not that that's anything major, but they don't have sidewalks to them. And they're rather confined just space-wise that I thought if I could do one big pavilion, kind of open it up a bit so that when someone has a family reunion there and grandma's in a wheelchair, you can get her there without it being a problem. Then you also have this playground that she can go watch the kids at, too.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to tell you, as a person who, I'm middle-aged, and I have parents who are senior citizens, and they both have mobility issues.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things you do not think of
until
and I've said to so many of my friends and coworkers and things like that, nobody prepares you for that.
Right.
And the simple idea of, okay, so we've got a playground that any kid can use. You're right. What about the grandparents that are either taking care, bring their kids over, or are there with family, and they want to watch their grandkids, nieces, nephews, whoever play.
Right.
That's big.
Right.
That's very big.
Right. Along with, a field trip, a teacher who's in a wheelchair. I know there's at least one in our county. can she be there and enjoy that too?
Right.
So the playground would be the pavilion would be $150,000. And I'm just shooting for the stars. So I would also like to redo the swing area back towards the merry-go-round to get that level surfacing and get some more inclusive swings.
I know that they had the two swings that one looked like a cowboy, one looked like a Native
Yeah,
American. They were up there forever. And they were
Yes.
always on that slope.
Yes.
You're right. Again, never really thought about it. Now,
Right.
here's one. You are definitely not old enough to remember this, but at one point in time, there was the most fun yet reckless piece of playground equipment in that park. Had to have been about 1980 to 83, somewhere along there. There was this thing in the park, and if anybody out there has a picture of it that they can send to us, I would love to see this. It was as big as the room that we're in. It had to have been. It was a circle.
Okay.
Okay, and it was like a giant rocking chair, essentially, is what it was. So if you can imagine, like the closest thing I can imagine, if you can imagine like a 10-foot tall slice of pipe, okay, that was set on rockers
Oh my.
and had like monkey bars, curved monkey bars on the top. It looked like a big letter O with monkey bars on the top. And the kids would run to one end and it would tilt to that end. And then all the kids who were on the other end would just fall into the thing.
Right.
It was like a giant dryer. We had so much fun and hurt ourselves so much on that
Right.
thing. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I would like to see a picture of that.
I would, yes, it would be great. That's memories there. If you remember that one, kids,
Right.
if you were there, send a picture if anybody's got one. But man, that thing was just that was a death trap, and we loved it. So, anyhow, no, I think that is a very noble cause. Now, if people want to donate to this, how can we go about that?
Yeah, so there's a Facebook page that kind of has all the information, including how to donate to it, which is this called the Tuscora Park Inclusive Playground Project.
Okay.
That's the Facebook. But any money can be donated to the Tuscora Park Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And that is just at the park office.
Right.
So it's the same address, or you can drop it off there, anything like that.
And collections are currently being taken.
Yep.
Collections.
Yeah.
Donations are currently being taken.
Yeah, we have about $300,000 out of the $750 needed, so we're off to a good start.
How long have you been doing this?
Just January, but just after I started the Facebook in late June, there was a very generous donation from a family and a very generous donation from a business. And
That's awesome.
As always, New Philly,
Yeah.
just the best.
Yeah.
People just come out.
That's
and
fantastic.
support these things. So very thankful to be here. And
That's excellent. And this is the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm always the last to hear about everything. But no, this is an incredible project, and
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad that you are making this effort
yeah.
to make our park even better. One of the questions that we always ask as we wrap up is since one of our partners with this is Live Tusk.
Yeah.
How do you live Tusk? As a person who works here and plays here and
Right.
resides here, how do you live Tusk?
I just enjoy it all. I go to the daily grind in the morning, get my kids a muffin. I go to the park at night. I teach at the school, and I'm going to the sporting events. And I couldn't love this place anymore. I was talking to my sister last week who lives in Nashville. So, she moved away.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh, man, your house is just so nice. I love this backyard. I love that we can walk over to the park. I'm like, yeah, I did it right.
Yep.
Yep.
It's funny. I have a neighbor. He was a senior citizen. He moved to Cincinnati to be with his kids and grandkids. And he and his wife moved there a couple of years ago. And a couple of nights back, we got a knock on the door. And it was him. And we're like, Bill, it's nice to see you and all that. And he says, yeah. He says, I like to come in maybe about once a year. And it made me laugh because he said, I have to go to this particular place to get this kind of food. I have to go to this candy store
Right.
because it's local. Then I have to go out to Sugar Creek and get this, and this. And then I've got people who want me to bring X, Y, Z.
Right.
And it's like, we've got all that here.
We do.
And you had to come from the big city
Right.
to little Tuscarawas County.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
Well, Preston, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a guest with us today. Certainly wish you all the luck in the world
Thank
on
you.
the project. Please keep us up to date as to what's
Yeah, I
happening.
will. Yeah.
We'll be sure to put a link up there
Okay.
for you so that people can, click and donate and that kind
Great.
of thing. So thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for another one. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, we hope to see you again next time. Take care, everybody. This episode of About 30 Minutes was brought to you by Rodriguez's House of Stones. Since 1976, the House of Stones is the premier jewelry store in New Philadelphia, Ohio. When you visit our store, you'll find loose diamonds, engagement rings, fine jewelry, custom jewelry, and pieces by the most famous jewelry designers. Rodriguez's House of Stones, where Tuscarawas County gets engaged. LiveTus strives to create a community of young adults living and or working in Tuscarawas County, Ohio, by assisting opportunities for social interaction and networking. We provide an awareness about the resources, activities, events, art, outdoor rec, education, and career opportunities in Tuscarawas County to encourage positive engagement about the quality of life in this area. We believe in a future where our community is a beacon of opportunity, known for its strong sense of belonging and exceptional quality of life. Our City Productions is a one-stop shop for professional quality and affordable video production, photography, social media management, and video conversion and archiving. Be sure to visit us at ourcityproductions.com and follow us on Facebook.